Hi, everyone. We are the CST Group 2, and my name is Rachel Fanis. I'm one of the group members, and so currently, right now, I'm working as a special education teacher. I'm from Chicago, Illinois, and I received my undergrad from Illinois State. This is currently my third semester here at Ball State. I am working to obtain my BCBA with hopes of continuing in my career in education.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jessica Carr. I'm from Orleans, Indiana. I graduated Ball State last fall with my bachelor's degree in early childhood and special ed. This is my third semester in the ABA program, and I'm looking forward to obtaining my BCBA and continuing to work with young children.
Hi everyone, my name is Marina Diaz and I live in San Antonio, Texas. I have been an RBT for over 2 years now. I work in a clinical setting. This is my third semester at Ball State and I'm looking forward to obtaining my BCBA.
Hi everyone, my name is Taylor Smith. This is my second semester. I'm from Chicago, Illinois, and I'm looking to obtain my BCBA. And I graduated from Eastern Illinois University with a degree in Family Services and Psychology.
Hey everybody, my name is David Weir. I did my undergrad at Fresno Pacific University. This is my third semester at Ball State. I'm pursuing my master's in special education with hopes of becoming a BCBA after I graduate and finish my hours. I'm currently working as an RBT in the clinical setting, but I've done some in-home work as well. So those are my goals for the near future.
All right, thanks everyone. We're going to talk today, begin by talking about obesity. It's considered an epidemic in this country, and the number of obese and overweight adults continues to grow. At the moment, there are 93.3 million adults who are in the United States who are considered obese. The estimated health costs associated with that is $147 million because obesity contributes to a lot of secondary health issues like diabetes, cancer, heart disease, and stroke. When we were choosing an activity for this replication project, we decided that we would like to work on our physical activity levels. So we looked for a study that would do that. We decided that since we're very busy, 76% of graduate students work full time. We're very busy, so we decided that maybe this intervention would help us incorporate more activity. There are lots of causes for obesity, sedentary lifestyles, cultural changes like emphasis on consumption rather than energy expenditure. There are also a lot of biological causes, heredity, age, all of those can affect your health and weight. So for the study that we chose, they decided that weight was not a good measure of progress for the project. So they decided to go with activity level, and for that they used a step counter. The original study wanted to see that if self-monitoring, sorry guys, self-monitoring, feedback, and goal setting would help them raise their activity levels. So there are a lot of literature and studies that support self-monitoring as an intervention. It's been used in a variety of to change a variety of behaviors like smoking, vocal tics, and it causes self-monitoring promotes reactivity, which is and recording your own progress makes you more reactive, and it can actually help you change your habits. The original study began with 4 healthy adults. They were all non-obese, and they wanted to improve or maintain their health. They used self-monitoring. Each participant wore a pedometer. They would self-report their steps per day, and they were checked weekly by a researcher. The design was an ABAB reversal design, so they would count their steps during baseline, and during baseline, the participants would not look at their step totals. They were covered, and then the researcher would check their step totals. For intervention, the participants would self-report their step totals to the researcher every day. Then their goals were based on their average from their baseline. And then feedback was provided by the researcher. For example, like if the person met their goal, they would say, hey, great job, you made it today. Or if they were a little bit short, keep going, you've almost got this. In the original study, all the participants did manage to increase their daily steps during intervention and then returned to baseline levels during reversal. The results of this study do indicate that self-monitoring, feedback, and goal setting can be an effective intervention to help increase activity levels.
So for the methods of the project, the materials that were used were pedometers for each person. So we used Fitbits, Apple Watches, or a smartphone using the Pacer application. So these pedometers just count your steps every day. And then at the end of the day, we would enter that data into a Google Doc. Each person needs access to a computer in order to input data into the Google Docs. They would also need access to Google Hangouts because we would meet twice a week to talk about how the study was going, review our results so far, things like that. And then you would also need access to Microsoft Excel to graph the data that you were taking on yourself. For our participants, all 5 of us are currently pursuing our master's degrees. Our occupations ranged from teachers, both special education and Head Start teachers, and then registered behavioral technicians. Our age ranges ranged from 43 to 22 years old. And then we all come from well, not all of us, but most of us are from different states, Nevada, Illinois, Indiana, and Texas. For the materials, I covered a few of the things already, such as the Apple Watches, Fitbits, smartphones. The reason that it was added into the Google Docs was so that not only could we track our own progress, but we could also do IOA as well, which we would take a picture of our steps taken and then upload that as well. So it could be compared to the steps that were entered into the graph and then confirmed with the photo. So that's the materials that need to be used for the study. Then there is measurement and reliability. So we use these pedometers to record our steps each day. At the end of the day, it would be entered into the Google Docs in a chart that we created. we operationally defined a step as any activity that resulted in a count being recorded or displayed on the pedometer. So anything that would register on the pedometer counted towards those steps that we were taking and counted as activity. Once this information was entered, then we would move to the next day and continue collecting steps. Reliability working participants. We met twice a week in Google Hangouts, reviewed the results, and we also at the start of the study signed a contract together promising that we would record accurate data and also not view our steps during the baseline phase. So the IOA data, as I explained before, a picture of the steps in from the app or from your watch, and then we would upload that into a group text so that everybody could see it, or into the Hangouts text area so that everyone could see it. The experimental design that is used was an AB-AB reversal design. So that's what was used for the study. This is comprised of 2 baseline phases and 2 intervention phases. So 4 phases in total. Additionally, we would each create our own AB-AB reversal design graph on Excel and enter our own data into that. The purpose of using this type of experimental design is so that you can find the functional relationship between the baseline and the intervention and then test it again. So, sometimes practice effects can play into this type of design, but it's a good design for being able to see that functional relationship. So on to procedures. The first step is the baseline step. During this step, each participant was not allowed to view their steps or their step count during the day. So we would, whether if you had it on a watch, you'd make sure that the steps weren't showing. If you had it on your phone and using the Pacer app, that means you're not accessing the app and constantly checking your steps during that baseline phase. You can see your steps at the end of the day when you enter it into the Google Docs that we were using, but before that, we did not look at our data at all. Once the data had stabilized or was showing a steady trend, not a lot of variability between the data points going, skyrocketing up or plummeting down, we would move on to the intervention phase that was stabilized. Interphase, the average steps of the participants were taken from the baseline, and then your goal during the intervention phase is to beat that amount. So if you had 3,000 steps for your 4 days of baseline, that means for every single day, that means your average would be 3,000. So for intervention, you would want to get 3,500, 4,000. Try to beat that average that you set during the baseline. And then during that time, during the intervention, you are encouraged to look at your steps while you're making progress through this. So yeah, I would be constantly checking my watch to see how many steps I'd taken that day, or checking the app on your phone, that kind of thing. Then we would input the data at the end of the day, and each person would comment on on 2 other participants their steps. So if they didn't reach that goal that day, they would provide like positive encouragement, saying, "Oh, you're so close, you can do it. Try again tomorrow and beat that goal." Or if they blew it out of the water and they had double their average, praise would be given, saying, "That was a great job today. Keep up the great work." So that was one of the motivating factors that each participant would add as they saw the data of the other participants. So this was all easily viewable on the Google Doc, and the baseline average beneath the intervention data was easy to see, so that everybody could compare those and apply the correct feedback during the intervention period. At the end of the study, we conducted a social validity survey. What this was is it was simply 5 different questions. It had a scale from 1 to 4. So 1 would be a disagree, 4 would be agree, and then 2 and 3 would be somewhat disagree or somewhat agree. The point of using this social validity survey is to get feedback from the participant on their thoughts about goal setting, the data reporting method, possibilities with continuation of this physical increase in physical activity after the conclusion of the study. So this is kind of a way to measure the external validity of the study and see if it would be applicable outside of the study itself.
Okay, so now we're going to talk about the results that we got from our replication of this study. So right now on your screen, you are looking at the table of all of the 5 participants and those ranges and those averages. So I'm going to further discuss those while we're looking at the graphs. And we're going to start with Jessica's graph. All right, so you're seeing again, this is an A-B reversal design here. And if we look at her baseline for sessions 1 through 4, Jessica did her baseline for the first time. And her range for baseline for her first time was roughly 3,544 steps to 6,842 steps. And that gave her an average of about 5,158 steps per day. So again, like David mentioned, that average from her baseline created her goal for intervention 1. So if you're looking up at that second section, her intervention goal was 5,158 steps per day. And during intervention 1, that first treatment phase, her range of steps was 6,678, all the way to ranging from 12,136 steps. So you can definitely see a difference, and some of those different changes in steps will definitely be discussed a little further in limitations and explaining that in the study, different things going on each day. So that's what her intervention 1 looked like. And overall, that average for daily steps was 8,876 steps. So that showed definitely an increase in steps from baseline to treatment. Then for the reversal, we went back to baseline, and Jessica had a range of 4,964 steps to 5,784 steps. And that created her new average of 5,337 steps. So not too far off where her first baseline was. So you see those steps go back down. Then that set her new goal. So during intervention part 2, her goal was now 5,337 steps per day was her goal for that. And during treatment 2, she ranged steps from 4,106 to 7,304 for an average of 5,998 steps per day. So again, she increased from what her goal was. During intervention part 1, Jessica passed or met her goal for all 4 days of intervention. And during that second intervention, 3 out of the 4 days, Jessica met and passed her goal. We're going to take a look now at Marina's graph. So again, Marina spent those first 4 days in baseline, and we can kind of see a different fluctuation. So her range for these days was from 1,256 steps, ranging up to 9,967 steps, creating her average of 4,290 steps per day. That average again goes into her goal for intervention 1, and that goal was set at 4,290 steps. So looking into her intervention for that treatment 1, Marina's range for treatment 1 was 1,133, ranging up to 4,789 steps per day, giving her an average of 2,453 steps per day. So for Marina's first intervention, we do see that her steps went down. So we went back to baseline for her to see what that would look like. And for Marina's second baseline, she had steps ranging from 712 up to 3,019, creating a new average of 1,608 steps per day. So we moved into intervention 2 with a goal of 1,608 steps per day. And then Marina's range in intervention 2, so that second treatment in the AB design, is ranging from 1,179 up to 2,189 steps per day, creating her new average of 1,814 steps. So we did see an increase in steps from her second baseline to that treatment. So overall, during intervention 1, on 1 out of the 4 days in intervention, Marina met or passed her goal. And during intervention 2, on 3 out of the 4 days, she met or passed her goal. So overall, we did see an increase in steps during that second intervention. Now we're going to move to look at Taylor's graph. So you're seeing again that AB reversal design. So Taylor spent her first 4 days as well in baseline. And during Taylor's baseline, she had a range of 985 steps up to 1,699 steps, creating her average of 1,399 steps per day. Again, that average goes over into set her goal for first intervention. So her goal was 1,399 steps per day. Taylor, during treatment 1, that first treatment, had a range of 542 steps up to 6,846 steps, giving her an average of 2,865 steps per day. So she definitely increased her steps from baseline to intervention. Then for that reversal, we fell back down to baseline. And during her baseline for the second time, her range was 720 steps up to 2,798 steps, creating a new goal or average of 1,355 steps. So that brought us over to a goal for intervention 2 of 1,355 steps. And during that second treatment, that intervention, her range of steps was 906 steps up to 2,170 steps, or an average of 1,623 steps per day. So Taylor also increased. So if we look at a whole, during Taylor's intervention 1, on 2 out of the 4 days, she either met or passed her goal. During intervention 2, she had 3 out of 4 days where she met or passed her goal, and overall her steps increased on that. Now we're going to check out David's graph. So David also spent that beginning portion in baseline. And for David's baseline, he had a range of 3,703 steps up to 11,283 steps for that average or set goal of 6,284 steps. So we're going to move into looking at his first intervention with that goal of 6,284 steps per day. And during the first intervention, that first treatment, David had 1,355 steps, ranging up to 13,712 steps, giving him an average of 5,278 steps per day. So that's actually lowered. So he had less steps than he did during baseline. We move back over to our second baseline for that AB reversal. David's second section of baseline, his steps range from 3,939 to 5,525, creating a new average of 4,551 steps per day. The new goal for our second intervention is 4,551 steps per day. So during that second intervention, the range of David's steps was 2,947 up to 4,603 steps per day, creating an average of 3,315 steps averaging per day, which also shows a decrease in steps from baseline to intervention. So overall, during intervention 1, on 1 out of 4 of the days, David met or passed his goal. And during intervention 2, on 1 out of 4 days, David met or passed his goal. on all of those other days he did not meet or pass his goal. Finally, we're going to look at Rachel's ABAB reversal graph. And you will also see that for my data, I spent the first 4 days in baseline. And for baseline, I created a range of 4,059 steps up to 7,283 steps, for an average of 5,755 steps. So that goal of 5,755 steps was set as my goal during my first intervention. During my first intervention, I had steps ranging from 6,010 to 10,059, and that set me at an average of 8,034 steps per day. So that showed quite an increase in steps. Now going back down to baseline for the second baseline, the range in steps was 10,056, ranging up to 12,260 steps per day, creating an average for the second baseline of 11,552 steps per day. That created the new goal for that second intervention. So the new goal was 11,552 steps per day. And during that second intervention in the ABAB reversal design, I had a range of 11,721 steps, ranging up to 12,896 steps, creating an average of 12,248 steps per day, also showing an increase in steps. Overall, during intervention 1, I had 4 out of 4 days where I met or passed my goal. And during intervention 2, on 4 out of 4 of the days in intervention, I met or passed my goal. That's a little description of what the graphs look like for each member participating in this replication.
Overall, throughout each of the 4-day weeks, 2 out of 5 of the participants, Jessica and Rachel, reached their goal during the first intervention week, and 4 out of the 5 participants, Jessica, Rachel, Taylor, and Marina, they reached their goal during the second intervention week. David was the only participant that did not reach his goal. From the data obtained, we can conclude that the second intervention week was more effective than the first, as it significantly increased the daily number of steps for most of the participants. The goal setting, self-monitoring, as well as daily feedback from one another kept all of the participants motivated and actively involved in their determination towards increasing their steps and reaching their daily goals. During Jessica's first baseline week, she earned an average of 5,158 steps. She reached her goal 4 out of 4 of the days during her first intervention week, giving her an average of 8,875.5 steps. Her steps did lower during her return to baseline, giving her a goal of 5,337 steps, and re-increased the following intervention week, resulting in an average of 5,998 steps during the second intervention. Although she passed her weekly average, she met her goal a total of 3 out of the 4 days during the second intervention week. Rachel's first week of baseline, she resulted in an average of 5,755 steps. During the first week of intervention, she surpassed her goal 4 out of the 4 days throughout the week, giving her a weekly average of 8,034 steps. During her second intervention week of baseline, her weekly average increased over 5,000 steps overall compared to her first baseline week, resulting in an average of 11,552 steps. Her last intervention week resulted in her surpassing her goal another 4 out of the 4 days, giving her a weekly average of 12,248 steps throughout the week. David's first week of baseline gave him an average of 6,284 steps. He reached his goal 1 out of the 4 days during the first intervention week and earned an average of 5,278 steps. During his second baseline week, his steps decreased to an average of 4,551 steps, in which he again met once out of the 4 days throughout the week. His second week of intervention gave him a weekly average of 3,315 steps in total. During Taylor's first week of baseline, her average was 1,399 steps, in which she met 2 out of the 4 times during the first intervention week, ending in a result of 2,865 steps. Her second week of baseline decreased to 1,355 steps, in which she surpassed 3 out of the 4 times, reaching her goal, earning an average to 1,623 steps during her second intervention week. And lastly, during Marina's first week of baseline, she had an average of 4,290 steps, in which she met her goal once out of the 4 days during her first intervention week, resulting in an average of 2,453 steps throughout the week. Her steps during her second baseline decreased to 1,608 steps. Although her weekly average surpassed her goal, she reached her goal 3 out of the 4 days during the last intervention week, resulting in an average of 1,814 steps. The social validity survey was given to determine the acceptance and satisfaction levels of each participant during intervention procedures. The social validity survey asks 5 questions, having each participant rate on a scale of 1 through 4, meaning 1 meaning disagree, 2 meaning somewhat disagree, 3 meaning somewhat agree, and 4 meaning agree. Marina, Taylor, Rachel, and Jessica agreed that their intervention helped increase their activity level, while David disagreed. Marina, Jessica, and Taylor agreed that the goal setting helped increase their activity level, while Rachel somewhat agreed and David somewhat disagreed. Marina and Taylor agreed that the group feedback helped them increase their activity level, while Rachel and Jessica somewhat agreed and David disagreed. All 5 of the participants in the study fully agreed that the data reporting method was convenient. And lastly, Rachel, she agreed that she will continue working towards her activity goals after the completion of this assignment. Marina, Taylor, and Jessica somewhat agreed, and David somewhat disagreed. All of the participants overall found the replication of the studies to be effective in increasing their activity level and increasing their daily steps.
Just as stated in the original article, we also came across many limitations. Some of the limitations had to do within replication of the study, and we found that other limitations had to do based on each group member's lifestyle. So to begin with, it was most important that we all had accurate data collection. So in order to record accurate data collection, we all needed to gain access to a pedometer. Either some group members already had access to a pedometer and other group members needed to gain access, which was fairly easy. We could either use an app or it was very cheap to buy through other sources such as online. Once we all received the pedometers, we then reached our next limitation, and that limitation was in the original study, they had a experimenter that covered up the data collection so participants were not intrigued to look at what their steps were for the day. So as a group, we decided that we would all follow a contract. Within that contract, it stated that we would not look at our steps. It also indicated that we would take pictures and send to group members either via Google Doc, text message, or any other Word documents online. After we verified that there would be no tampering with any of the steps, we also reached that during baseline and intervention due to our lifestyles. Each group member lives in a different state, which means we also have different time zones. Based on the time zones, also implemented that there was different daylight schedules. So that also took effect on how active we were going to be during the day when the sun was out and when the sun was setting. There were also limitations, which included some group members having personal injuries, such as back injuries, for the time period, either during baseline or intervention. Certain members were either moving to different locations over the period of time. Other members were either switching job locations, which also took frequent back and forth trips. The other limitation that we felt highly throughout the semester is that there were students that were taking multiple courses along with this course, which also took into effect due dates. Among all of the limitations as a group, we were able to communicate effectively to make sure that data collection was accurately taken.